It's not being a fool, it's giving like a fool.
Oh, being a fool.
Anyways. But if you want to talk about a fool, the man in the striped shirt. I'm just kidding. How's everybody doing? Logan, do we have that logo?
Which one?
For the series? If not, it's cool.
I don't think so.
Awkward pause. Okay, cool. All right, yeah, sorry about that. There's a really cool logo. I don't know if they showed it to you guys last week. Mr. T and the cool chains, yeah. I was going to wear those gold chains this morning, but Kelsey gave them all away. Anyways, how's everybody doing? Good. It's good to be back in good old Michigan. We are continuing a series. If you're first time here today or you're checking it out, we're talking about generosity, and so you're already like, yep, that's those church people always talking about money. But it's not about money. We're talking about living a generous life and being people who live out open-handedly and give our lives away and learn how to live lives of generosity. And so today, we're going to look at fulfillment. Last week, Michael was here. I heard he did an awesome job. And he talked about how giving scientifically has proven people who are more generous with their lives are happier. So I hope some of you did something this week to give someone some hope or some love or some money or something, and now you're happy. Anybody happy? Woo! Yeah. All right, cool. So today, though, we're going to go a little deeper in this and talk about fulfillment, how giving and living a life of generosity. And when I say giving, I don't want you to think I'm thinking just dollar bills. I'm talking about everything you have in life. We have all been given love, hope, peace, patience, everything, all of our personalities, our giftings, our talents, the time we have. We've been given everything we have, and we have been given it only so that we can be a conduit, that it flows through into affecting other people. And so we want to be people who live like fools when it comes to being generous with our lives. And today we're going to talk about how being generous can give us fulfilled lives. Last week, I was out in California, so I wasn't here. My little brother Jason lives out there, and he's a rock star. Like, do you ever hang out with rock stars? I mean, he's not a rock, like, you don't know him on TV yet. I mean, unless you watch House Hunters Renovations, you'll see his little name on there. He's an associate producer. It's pretty cool. But he's got that rock star, that's why those pictures were so cool, because I thought I was a rock star too. My wife did not think that looks very good, but she wasn't with me, so it's cool. But we went to LA. Now, I don't know, who in here has ever been to California? Anybody? Okay, so you guys will know what I'm talking about if you've been to LA. They're like 14, 15, 25 years ahead of where we are in Michigan. Somewhere in there. They're so progressive out there, like you go to McDonald's and they don't serve burgers, they serve these chicken patties that aren't really chicken, they're made out of soy. Not kidding, I ate this chicken. It tasted like chicken, but it wasn't chicken. It's what they told me. I don't know. Crazy out there. I loved it. But here's the deal. They're also very athletic because they walk everywhere because it's big city life and there's mountains. And so it's very normal on any given day to live a fulfilled life in LA. You get up and you go to yoga. Who's ever been to yoga? All right. If you know me, you know where this is going. So, being the good older brother that I am, Jason said, let's go to yoga. Ryan said, I am not going to yoga, I'm going to play golf. So Ryan leaves us, I think he went to play coffee or something, I don't know what he did. He didn't come. And so Amy and I, Ryan's wife, go to yoga with my little brother. Now I'm thinking yoga, I've worked out a couple times in my life, this can't be that big of a deal. And so we go into the studio and a lady has us register and we get a free 1-week pass so we can come back every day. Yay! And I'm like, well, I'm going to leave here so in shape. And then she says, which class are you taking? And Jason says some yoga type name, because I don't know what they are. And she goes, oh, you're going to take them to that class? And I thought, oh, well, this is not going to be good. And so we go back in the locker room, and we get changed into our yoga-esque clothes, which is basketball shorts and a t-shirt. And unless you're really, like, kind of man, then you just wear a little tank top, which I'm going to get to someday. But you go in there, and now here's the thing. It's called hot yoga. Anybody ever heard of hot yoga? So you know how you go to a sauna? You get those saunas, they're like 483 degrees, and you walk in, and just sitting there with nothing but boxers on, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so hot in here. Picture that, and then exercise for an hour. You walk in this room, and you take your little mat. Now, I'm a sweater. You guys know that. I'm up here every week. I sweat just with lights on me. 483 degrees, probably exaggerating. I get the yoga mat. I lay down on this mat. Before I'm on the mat, I've already got sweat dripping off of me. Like, boop, 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 boop. And the lady comes in, and she teaches us the pose that you're supposed to go back to if you can't do what you do, because yoga, I learned, you can't just up and leave. That's offensive. So you have to stay in this 483-degree place for an hour. An hour. So they teach you this pose, and I would do it, but I'll probably rip my pants. But it's like, you get down like this, and then you get down like, I can't do it, but it's down like this, on the back more, your butt's like on your feet, and that's the pose that you're supposed to go back to when you don't feel good, because that's comfortable. So, 22 minutes into this thing, after watching these people, I mean, this is crazy, like, they're like, and I'm you're supposed to, I learned after, yoga is very personal, it's for you only. I'm like looking at everybody in the class, like, I can do that, yeah, I'll and my brother is like trying to ignore me because he's embarrassed, because this is where he goes every day. He does yoga daily, and he brought me with him. And Amy, Ryan's wife, does it perfectly. Like, she just jumped right in, like, she just does this, like, all these little step things. And I'm over here dying. So I get to this point, at minute 23, I think, it might have been minute 4, I don't know, and I was like, I'm gonna die. Like, this is it. I came to California to die in a hot yoga room. And so I go, Jason, Jason. And he can't look at anybody because it's an individual practice. I'm like, Jason. He's like, what? And I was like, can I lay down? He goes, go back to the initial pose. I'm like, I can't go back to that pose. I'm dying. When you are feeling like you're dying, you don't want to go to a pose that gets you ready to throw up. That's not good. I need to lay on my back. And so, I'm not making this up. I go back to my pose, and the yoga lady comes over, who's like 3 inches big, because she does this every day for, I'm sure, her whole life. And she like puts her hand on my back, and she's like, no, down a little farther, honey, down a little farther. I'm like, it took everything in me not to be like, please shut up and let me out of here. And so finally I was like, forget it. I can't leave, it's rude. I am laying down. So I spent 37 minutes of yoga on my back on the floor. Like, please, Jesus, please, God, I promise I'll start more churches, I'll reach more people, I don't want to die like this, please. And we left yoga. We get out in the car, and Ryan's like, how was it? And he was like, oh my gosh, I am finding a yoga place when I get home. This is the best thing I've ever done. And I was like, oh my gosh, I will never go back to one of those places again. That was the worst experience of my life. And then after that, we went and climbed a mountain. And I realized that I am not fit for city living. You don't do an hour of hot yoga and then climb a mountain and look like this and eat like this, let me just tell you. So I've got to get healthier now after being there, so next time I go back I can hopefully make 24 minutes of hot yoga and show him. Anyways, I tell you all that, one, to just tell you a fun story, but two, is because so many times in our lives we find things that bring fulfillment to us, right? For my brother, yoga is so fulfilling. He has gotten in such good shape. He eats better. He told me his stress is down because he does this every day. And that, for him, brings fulfillment. For me, that's not what brings fulfillment. But for him, it brings so much fulfillment in his life. But at the end of the day, all of us have something in our life or things in our life that fulfill us in different ways. But the one thing that I would argue that we have in common in here today is that generosity fulfills all of us. If you want to live a life that feels fulfilled, that feels like you are making a difference, that feels like you are filled up. Do you ever go to something, you're just like, oh man, I am like filled up, I'm ready to go pour myself out. My challenge for us today is to be people who live generous lives, who make a difference in the world so that we can be fulfilled. So we're going to start today in Luke chapter 12, and it's come on the screen. In verse 13, it says, someone in the crowd said to him, and they're talking to Jesus here, teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Jesus replied, man, who appointed you a judge or an arbitrator between you? Then he said to them, watch out and be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Say, all kinds of greed.
All kinds of greed.
Life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. And everybody said, yeah. But God said to him, you fool. Ryan, you fool. Oh, I was kidding. This very night, your life will be demanded from you. Then you will get what you have prepared for yourself. This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God. I want to unpack this passage this morning because I think sometimes we look at this and we get really scared, like, oh no, I can never have anything, I can't enjoy my life, I can't eat, I can't drink, I can't be married. What happens at Christmas now? I can't even be Merry Christmas. It's going to be Christmas. Hey, Christmas. Can't even say Merry. And I want this morning to break down some walls in our minds to get us to the place of being fulfilled by generosity, because I believe that this passage is cautioning us to guard against greed. But it's also showing us that as God blesses us, we are blessed to be a blessing and make a difference in the world around us. So the first thing I want to look at today in how we live a generous life that leads to fulfillment is to be careful to avoid greediness. Greed is a really interesting thing. The definition to greed is an excessive desire for wealth and possessions. We have to be people who are so careful that we're not seeking money for the sake of building our own ego. The rich man was blessed, and that blessing, that abundance he talked about, came from God. But once he received it, he began to hold on to it as his own. What did he say? I have so much, so I must build a bigger barn so I can get more, so I can fill the bigger barn so I can get more. The problem with that is when we seek more and more and more just to have more and more and more, we don't make a difference in the world. When we get to the end of our life, what do? What's the point? What have we done on the earth if all we ever do is try to get more for ourselves so we have more, but not do anything with it? Oftentimes, when we work hard for what we have, there's a tendency to hoard things for ourselves. There's a tendency to say, I worked really hard for this thing. Don't tell me I should give some money away. Don't tell me I should share my boat. Don't tell me I should do this thing or whatever because it's mine and I worked hard to get it. But fulfillment comes when we take what we've been given and bless others with it. What's interesting is that blessing comes from God. He's the one who gives it to us in the first place. But sometimes when we get it, it's harder to remember where it came from. What we have, what we'll get in the future, is given to us so that we can give it away, not to store it for ourselves, to desire more for ourselves, just so ourselves look good. Have you ever had a situation in your life where you could say, yeah, I've probably been a little bit greedy? Anybody? Okay, good. It's not just me. Whew. Sometimes I preach just to myself, and it's okay. I'm happy with it. I like me. So when I first started working, my parents got me, like it's a good thing to do, and I would encourage this, but just don't let your son be stupid like me. Got me a credit card to start building credit, which in turn helped in the future, because then you get debt, you get more debt. It's really great, actually. Okay, so they got me a credit card, and I had a $250 limit. Now, here's what I learned. It was one of those prepaid ones. My dad paid the money. They give me the card. I had to pay it off every month and start building my credit. Well, as you start building your credit when you're 16, by the time you're 18, you can get whatever you want. It's amazing. So one day I went into Express, because I like that store, and I saw a shirt that I liked in a particular size, shape, and color. But then I saw like 14 more shirts in that same shape, but different colors, and different stripes, and different designs. And it went around like this, and I got up there, and I'm like, how am I going to pay for this? Because I got this credit card, but it only has a $250 limit. And if you've ever shopped at Express, that's like 2 shirts. So I'm like, this is a problem. So the lady at the counter says to me, you can open an Express credit card. It was amazing. So I was like, oh, perfect. So I opened this credit card and charged, I don't even know how many shirts. I didn't even think of that today. This is one of them. One of the shirts that 10 years ago, I'm still wearing them because I'm still paying for them. 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I found this shirt, and I bought it in black, white, blue, green, purple, gray, stripes down, stripes across, pattern, it doesn't matter. I had it all, and I just chewed that plastic. But here's what happened. There's a bill that comes in the mail the next month, and they expect you to pay that stuff back. And I was like, are you kidding me? So it took me years to pay for this shirt. I'm not kidding, because I was making like $9 an hour, and I had spent like $1,000 on shirts. And so I'm like making payments of $50 a month with like 83% interest for the next 10 years to pay for the shirts. But I was thinking about this message and this portion of it this week of avoiding greediness. I thought, man, what if I had just said, okay, I got a job making $9 an hour. That's pretty cool. I can afford to go buy one shirt. And I bought one shirt. How many years of digging myself out of debt would I have spared myself if I had just been grateful for what I had and not sought more for me? More for me. And I think that's the challenge to each of us today, is that we want to be people who are not greedy. We avoid greediness, not because stuff is bad. Jesus is not here saying stuff is bad. Don't have a house, don't drive a car, don't wear clothes, don't buy cool shoes every week. Like, he's not saying that. See, honey, see her sweet ass. Kelsey doesn't like my shoes today, so I was just trying to hide it. Okay, smile pretty, smiling. But it's not saying that stuff is bad. It's saying what we do with what we have. What portion that we get do we give back to help other people? Because at the end of the day, if all I do is buy shoes, because some of you think that's all I do, if all I do is buy shoes, then I've missed it. But I could show you in our budget what portion goes to shoes and what portion goes to helping other people. And I'm not saying this to brag, but the reality is I know in my life, if I am balancing my life out to where I am doing what I can to meet the needs of people around me, I don't feel bad having stuff. God didn't say stuff is wrong. It's the seeking after the stuff that is wrong. It's not bad to enjoy vacations. It's not bad to drive nice cars. It's not bad to want to build more for your family and want to save for retirement. That is good because you want to impact the next generation. None of that is wrong. But it's our attitude in it that a lot of times we get so caught up in it that I'm doing everything and working as hard as I can so I can build my 401k while neglecting the fact that there are kids dying around the world every single day. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, you got your problem over there. I got to build my money over here. That's the definition of greed. It's not that you can't do and be a good steward, because that's very biblical. But it's that you are always looking, how can I meet the needs of everyone around me? So the first thing we do is that we avoid greediness. The second thing we do is that we need to be willing. This is one that is interesting. We need to be willing to receive. Here's what's interesting about this passage. When you look at the verses that we just read, do we have that point up there, Logan? I'm sorry. I've been gone for a week. I didn't get Logan these verses till this morning, and we don't have internet here, so I think you had to type all these up, and the computer's all jacked up. Anyways, the second point is be willing to receive. When you look at the abundant man, oh no, we're going to do back to the verse, just the point. Sorry. No. I just want to make sure that was the right point. I think it is. Yeah, look at that. Be willing to receive. Man, I must have that thing that you think things. Okay, cool. So, be willing to receive. When you look at that passage in Luke 12, it says that it says a certain rich man had abundance. And then he said to himself, I'll build barns, and I'll build bigger barns. What's interesting in this passage when I was studying this week is that he was given the abundance. And I think sometimes in our lives, we get scared of blessing. We get scared of receiving what God might have for us. But see, the reality is, if you are a generous person, if you're living a life that is fulfilled by generosity, God's promise is that he will continue to take care of you. He will bless you back. In Proverbs 11:24, it says, the world of the generous gets larger and larger, but the world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. Oftentimes in life, we're not willing to receive what God has for us because our pride gets in the way. And we don't want to look like, oh no, like what do people think, and all this stuff. The rich man had an overabundance of what he needed. The abundance was not the problem. His heart was the problem. And many times we're afraid of letting God or other people bless us out of fear. A lot of times, what if I get it and I don't do right with it? What if I build that 401k and I spend it all on myself? What if I take care of my stuff? Am I valuing my stuff too much and we won't receive what God has given us because we've been generous? And my challenge for us today, as we're learning to be generous people, giving is give and take. Giving is giving away and receiving. And we can't get so caught up on all we do is give out, and never receive what God gives us back. Because if we don't take what he's giving us back, we won't have more to give out on the other side. Does that make sense? If we don't receive what he gives us, it's really hard to give away when you don't have anything. There's two parts, like I said, of generosity, giving and receiving. I wanted to say something else too, is that when I said earlier it's not just about money, I think some of us, we have to learn to receive joy in our lives. If you've been miserable for a long time, you kind of get used to being miserable. You know, you're kind of like, oh man, it's always dark outside, it's always snowing, It's always da, da, da. And something happens in your life that is like a really joyful occasion. You're like, I don't really feel it because it's just dark outside and it's always snowing, even though it's July and I'm on the lake. Like, it's really bad. Part of receiving is learning to receive everything that God gives us, even when we're in situations and seasons in our life that are not good. Some of us can't receive good because we've been so trained to receive the bad. And my challenge for us this morning is let's not do what the rich man did. Let's not get our abundance and hoard it to ourselves. Let's not get joyful and keep it to ourselves. But let's let God give us joy so we can go out and encourage other people. Last year when we had first started the church, Kelsey and I were, I think we had just moved into Pontiac and we were working on some stuff. And we just hit this wall where we were just like tired and just wanted to go get away and just kind of get out. And I had just started working again, and so we were at a place financially where we just didn't have it in our budget to go anywhere. And we've had things happen to us over the course, I can tell you story after story, of people that have just blessed us. And when it first started happening, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of like, no, I'm sorry, God told you to what? Like that, I don't need that, because if God told you to help me, then that must mean I need help, and I don't want to admit that I need help, because my pride is in the way of receiving. And so I've had to learn over the course of the last few years as people have started blessing us. Like one time I was sitting in a church service and I knew there was this lady there from Haiti, and the earthquakes had all just happened and they were going back, and I knew that I needed to help this lady, but I knew if I helped this lady, I was not going to be able to meet my own need. I wasn't going to be able to pay my car payment, is the truth. And I was like, I sat in the service and I was like, God, I can't help this lady, because if I help her, I won't be able to pay my car payment, and they're going to come tow my car, and then I won't be able to go to church. And so really it's all about you, God, because if I help somebody, then I won't be able to come worship you. Because I justify it in my own mind. But at this particular time, I remember being so like, I have to do it. Like just that something you feel on the inside, you conviction. Like, no, I need to do this. And so I remember writing a check and being like, God, I'm just going to trust that you will provide for my needs as I try to meet the need of somebody else. And I got into my car that day and had a voicemail from my mom that someone at her church had handed her an envelope with the exact amount of money that I wrote a check for to this lady in Haiti. Yeah. And what that did for me is that amount back then was not very much. I'm just being honest. But that showed me, man, if I will take care of the needs of others, God will take care of me. But what happens sometimes is we won't receive the peace of God taking care of me. And so the rest of the story I started is that when Kelsey and I were just at a place where we're like, man, we just wish we could get away, a lady walked up to us and handed us a check. And this happens a lot when you start a church, because people want to help pay for these buildings and pay for the center, and people want to help launch a ministry. So that's pretty normal that people hand us checks and say, hey, give this to your church. And so I just put it in my pocket and didn't look at it. And when I did look at it, she was gone, I noticed that the check was written to DJ Eichler, not to Reverse Church. And I was like, oh, she must have did that wrong. So I called the lady back, because, again, I'm not very good at receiving. I forget sometimes. And so I'm like, I don't need this money. I'll call somebody else. And so I called her back and I said, hey, you wrote this check out to me. You didn't write it out to the church. And she said, I know. And I was like, really? Why? And she said, because I've been watching you guys, and I think you guys need some rest. So I wanted to bless you so you could get away and get some rest. That's the truth. And so what that moment again taught me, and all these things that God teaches us about generosity, is that as we live lives that give stuff away, we have to be willing to receive more. At sometimes a vacation, and it doesn't have to be a lavish vacation, but just getting out of your own house for a couple days is what you need. Sometimes you need to be refueled and filled back up. And oftentimes in our lives, people will try to bless us, and we're like, no, I don't need that. I don't need your help. Don't tell me. I don't need anything. And I just want to challenge us to be willing to receive. The rich man received abundance. But then what do we do with it is what makes us live a fulfilled life. The last thing today of living a generous life that leads to fulfillment, a life that feels, I can't keep saying that, fulfilled by God, is we need to place value on what we give, not on what we have. You see, where the rich man went wrong here, in fact, I'll read the verse in verse 18. It says, then he says, this is what I'll do. This is right after he's been given the abundance. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I will store up my surplus grain, and I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. He looked at what he had and counted what he had, not what he can give away. Oftentimes in our life, when we do get to the place where we've received from God and we've received blessing, and God is using our lives to bless us, we get in a place where we start hoarding it back. We were over in Grand Rapids last night, and Kelsey's dad was speaking at their church over there, and I had no idea what he was speaking on, and he was teaching out of Luke 12, which is, I thought, pretty ironic, the exact same passage that we're speaking about. And he said a phrase I thought was so cool. He said, we have the choice to either help or hoard. We have the choice to say, I'm going to go make a difference in the world, or I'm going to keep everything I have for myself so I can take care of myself, and I'll build a bigger barn so that if life gets bad, I still have my little surplus back here. But the reality is, if we begin to take count of what we give, not in a bragging way like, look what I gave, and telling everybody around you, but in a way that says, God, how much can I give away, not how much can I keep? It's amazing what he will start doing in our lives as we be people who start giving away. Last year, I'll close with this story. Last year, we were tutoring over off Brown Road, and we had been tutoring there with our friend Michael that spoke last week, actually, for about a year at that point. And this is just my vanity. So we went and picked up a new car because we were turning our car in, and we picked up a new lease car. So when I get a car, I'm a car guy. Like, I'm a guy who places value on what I have to the extreme sometimes. That's why I preach these messages to myself. And so instead of valuing what I give, a lot of times I value what I have. And so we go pick up this car. And we pick it up on a Monday. And Tuesday, we go to tutoring. And we're driving up into the kids. And tutoring there was, like the center here, the kids kind of, it's a long walk in. Well, tutoring there, we were tutoring in a house, so the kids will line up on the porch. And when they see you coming, they will run down the street. Like, you feel like you're in Hollywood. It's great. Like, you feel like a celebrity. All the cameras come out, paparazzi, and not really, but it's a bunch of kids. And they're like, DJ, Kelsey, ah! They're so excited. And they come running for us to see us, because in their mind, they could care less what kind of car we drive. They don't know. They don't know new car from old. They don't care. They're kids. And so they come running towards us, and we're like, oh, because that's what they always do. And one kid comes up to the side of our car and leans his bike up against the car and goes like this. And it put a line like this in our one-day-old car. And if you know me, I was like, my car! Oh no, I got a scratch in my car. Which side story, I think God has a sense of humor, because I swear to you, every car I buy gets a scratch in the first week. Not even kidding. I can show you the two cars we have in the parking lot. Both have scratches we got in the first week. Not even kidding, because it's my, oh no! I know. It's just like, scratch it up. Forget it. It's not worth it. It's a car. And so in that moment, in my mind, for Kelsey, that's no big deal. She could care less about a scratch. It's a scratch. But me, my OCD, anal retentive, everything has to be perfect mind, I'm like, oh man. And in that moment, I had a choice. Am I going to hoard? Or am I going to help? Am I going to focus on what I have, or focus on what I can give away? Because I could have stood out during tutoring in my car trying to buff that thing out of there. And, okay, come on. It's going to get better. I could have called the insurance company and paid the deductible to get it fixed. But at the end of the day, if I was continuing to help, my car was probably going to get more scratched up, because I was working with more kids. And in that moment, I had a choice. Am I going to hoard what I have for myself? Or am I going to use the stuff that I've been given to get me to the place where I can give? Is a car for my ego, or is a car to drive me to these kids where I can tutor? Is a car so that I look good when I come rolling up, or is the car to get me, as my mom always said, from point A to point B? That's what it's there for. It's a tool. It's a resource. And oftentimes in our lives, especially in Midwestern America, I am so suburb kid, I get this. Oftentimes in our lives, we focus so much on the stuff that's given to us to use to bless others, and we just focus on the stuff. And we live for the next car, or the next house, or the next bonus, or the next meal, or whatever the next cool trend is. Those things, like I said earlier, aren't bad. But those things are given to us so that we can in turn go out and make a difference in the world around us. So if we want to be people who live a generous life, we have to be people who choose to give, not choose to focus on what we have, who choose to say, I will give my life away to make a difference in the world. And I promise you this, if you begin doing that, whatever it is, if you begin just starting every day trying to encourage one person, just find one person at work that you can say, I just want to encourage you in this. Or if you begin looking to meet a need, here's the thing. If you start looking, if you ask God, God, show me some needs I can meet, He'll show you. That's actually a really crazy prayer to pray, because if you ask Him to show you where need is, He'll begin to show you so much need that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this on my own. And that's when you start, churches, movements to make a difference in the world, because together, I can't do it on my own, but together, all of us can go out into this world, encourage people, give people hope, tell them the love of Jesus, give away our money, give away our time, serve, whatever it is. Let's be people who give away, who live like fools when it comes to generosity, knowing that God promises to fulfill our lives, fulfill our hearts as we continue to give back to Him. Let's pray this morning. God, I thank you. I thank you for your word. I thank you for the story of this man that you told, about a man who was given so much and chose to keep it for himself. And you looked at him and said, you are foolish. I'm not even going to let you live much longer because you're just stupid. But God, I thank you that you gave us that illustration, because you're telling us that if we take what you would give us and choose to give it away, learn to receive it, learn to enjoy what you've given us, but choose to give it away, that you would use our lives to make such a difference in the world. I pray today that none of us will get caught in the trap of our minds that says we have to have more so we look good, or we have to have more so we trust more in ourselves, and we have to build bigger bank accounts so if a rainy day comes, we know what to do. I pray, God, that we will be people who don't take count of what we have, but start counting in our head. When's the last time I encouraged somebody? When's the last time I wrote a check to an organization that's making a difference in the world? When's the last time I just went and served somewhere and gave my time? I pray that we be people who live like good fools. Not the foolish man who wouldn't share, but fools who are crazy to step out and do things that are beyond what we can afford, that are beyond what we think we can do, because we know that greater are you who's in us than the world around us, God. I pray this morning, God, if anybody's in here this morning and they have not been filled by you and your love, that they would accept that love. Because the ultimate fulfillment comes from you. You are generous. You are generosity. You are everything. All the characteristics of good, that is encompassed in who you are, God. So I pray this morning that if anybody under the sound of my voice has not received you, that in their own heart today would be the day that they say, I'm going to follow Jesus so I can live a life of generosity that brings fulfillment back to my life and makes a difference in the world around us. I thank you, God, for the opportunity to gather with your people, to gather with people just checking it out, to gather with people in our city to come together and just sing together and be encouraged in our faith. And I pray that it wouldn't end here, God, but as we leave here, we would go out and make a difference in the world around us, living lives like fools who are generous. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. You can stand with me this morning. All right, are we good? Yeah. It's a little quiet here today. Quiet. Ready for a nap? Hey, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, somebody's excited. Awesome. Hey, it's so great to have you guys here with us this morning. Come back next week is Palm Sunday. That's exciting. The following week is Easter. I really encourage you, invite someone to come with you for Easter. We're going to start Friday night with Charlie and wearing these shirts. You get a free shirt, which is really cool. And go out and invite people to come in and just inviting people to come to a place where they can just be loved and filled with hope. And Easter is a great time of year to start that. So I encourage you in that. Before we go, we always end each service confessing a blessing over our lives, because we believe that if today is good, tomorrow can be better, right? If where we are right now is great and God's done great things, but we still have breath in our lungs tomorrow, then God's got a plan for a future that is brighter ahead of us. So we end every service saying this together, that my best and most blessed days are ahead of me. We love you guys. We'll see you back next week.